please donate to our PayPal to make sure that you can watch this free anytime you want. Information is in the video. It's also on the page, and it's either on the post.
Poetry is meant to save lives, it's meant to touch people.
My poetry reflects on my life in several ways.
Write that down, how you feel about it.
The thing to expect in walking into a room full of poetry machas, poetry mavens, and poetry whiners, and poetry wonders is that you're never going to know what's going to come out of their mouths.
Fuck Jodeci and R. Kelly. Even the dreams falsetto can't suffice the intellectual lovemaking we created here tonight, so don't bump them. Instead, bump Jeopardy loud like da 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 da. And whisper the best pickup line in my left ear like E equals MC squared, like you knew that was the only way to get me wet down there. Give me your mind fuck. Or at least let us make love and talk afterwards. About the sun and stars, how astronomy shows how our astrology is meant to be. Man, spit me some shit about the theory of relativity, because all jokes aside, anything that doesn't have to do with you using your telepathy to undress me is irrelevant. Spit me some Pablo Neruda, learn me some Buddha, teach me some shit that make me cock my head so far back that I look like an Indian tantra sculpture in thoughts.
Truth runs to you with outstretched arms, always believing you'll swoop it up in yours and lift it high, always believing it will see itself reflected in the vacant pupil of your infidel eyes, always believing you'll indulge its selfish, unreasonable, annihilating demands and spoil it rotten as you would an adorable child.
The poem Truth, certainly everyone has their own idea of the truth, and of course I do too. My idea of it is that the truth is something very precious. It's something that needs to be protected and esteemed. And the way I developed the metaphor in the poem was to liken it to a child, because children are our most precious commodity and our way toward the future. It all may sound rather trite to put it that way, but that's the way I really do feel about it. I don't believe that truth, when we put a capital T on it, must become everyone's truth, because we're all at different levels of consciousness. But I think that one thing that can be agreed upon is that the truth is a value, and that we often resist it, because in the same way that a child demands of us to nurture that child, to meet every need of that child, because it's in a helpless situation where it requires our love and protection, we must answer that call, because we know that that child will one day become an adult and perhaps a leader. So that's why we're bound to do that. But it seems at the time when we're serving truth to be a burden or an annoyance or something that takes away from our own authority and service of the child. So that's why I chose to use that metaphor the way I did in that poem.
You need poetry. You don't need, sometimes you don't need the poets, but you need poetry. You know, because it's important. Because poetry has a softness to it. Makes you soft inside.
Soul friends, in a world not of our own making, aching, and trying desperately not to die, are as too many whys in Houston, Texas, the space city of whys. Yet so many times I have asked myself why. When I feel most alone, why? Why did Wayne take the wrong way home? Why? Did my Wayne die? You were my North Star, my guide. Why? You loved me unconditionally, accepted me unconditionally, Me with all my adolescent dramas, family wars and traumas? Why? Me with all my exquisite sensitivity? Me with all my dreams? Why did you love me? What were you going through? I loved you too, Wayne. You. I still do. Do you remember the night I told you who I really am? We were lying there in my uncle's big old beat-up old car, stranded there in the driveway like some old dinosaur. Without tears, I told you. Without shame, I told you. Gazing up at the heavens beneath a blanket of stars, I told you. Crazy, but I told you that the people in that old house over there were not my family. That in reality, I am from the planet CXR7, sent here on a mission to observe human life forms, but that my real family forgot to come and get me, forgot to take me home. Yeah, Wayne, they left me here, and I'm still here stargazing and praying, longing for ZXR7, longing for you, longing for home, because you were once home to me back then in the 70s, but the deep friendship I offered you was clearly not enough to set you free. Friendship was not your trip, not your thing. You wanted romance, the high, adrenaline, endorphins, epinephrine. Well, friendship for me was the ultimate trip. Yeah, friendship for me was a mothership. The neighborhood that we were living in Houston was rough. We're talking, you could hear helicopters. It was like Boys in the Hood, okay? Beautiful houses and lawns and everything, but definitely the hood. Gunshots, violence, strange sounds in the night, helicopters flying overhead at odd hours, little kids at school being treated like we were not school children, but basically inmates, and it was just crazy. And I knew I couldn't stay there, so as soon as I could leave, which was at about age 18. My first year in college, I was 17. I was pretty young because I started young. But leaving, I left. And I'm not sure I want to blame myself, but I left for good. I left for good, and I didn't look back. And things were so rocky between me and Wayne, we didn't stay in touch. But I always thought we would. But as life or luck or God or fate would have it, when I was ready to get back in touch with him, he would have nothing to do with me. I talked to his brother, and his brother tells me the same thing. He says that, Robin, he loved you. It broke his heart when you left. And I thought, wow. But truth is, my sister and I put it together, and he'd been using drugs long before I left. So I don't know if that makes me feel comforted or glad or what, but I guess I don't want to believe that I'm the person that caused him to do this. No, he was on that path. That was how he survived. Maybe that's what gave him that calmness. Somebody said that at a poetry reading. You know what I mean? Maybe that's how he kept it together. But sometimes when you use, chemicals to keep it together, it can start to use you. And I think that that's what happened to him.
Well, I write because that's what I'm supposed to do. If artists don't do their craft, then the energy comes out in different forms. Like if I have an idea and I don't release it, if I don't at least write it down on paper and record it, it'll haunt me. It'll be in my mind, like ricocheting back and forth, and I won't be able to concentrate on other things. But a lot of times, a lot of people, they appear to be crazy, but if you give them an outlet for that energy, it comes out.
Across the universe. Silence to brown, dust, breath, life, limbs, clubs, taking love across the universe. Sword to shield, conquering lands, will broken on spears, compliance or death across the universe. Mushrooms tear the air, millions erased, all but forgotten, once a year remembered, passage of time, aloe to scars, across the universe. Binary, bar-coded, synthetic emotions, unplugging from the motherboard through silicone graveyards, just to find you, just to get you.
I love things clear, the clean diamond, the clear topaz, when things show themselves in full, with no guessing, complete feeling of clear water. I like the diamond and clear topaz. I'll take obscurity in a poem. I love the clear day and crisp night, the honesty of the clear moment, like the clear foam of a wave washing onto the beach. I love things that have clarity, that you, like when you say the expression, what you see is what you get, that you know what's there, that there are no surprises. Because a poem sometimes, even though it's a little obscure, sometimes I've seen poems where each person gives the poem almost like a different meaning. So I'll take obscurity in a poem because a poem is beautiful, and there you can take the obscurity. But in life, you want to have things as clear. You want them given to you with no surprises, if possible.
The kind of poetry I do is love letters, but the breakup letters are the best. The snake oil salesman outside my window has begun to read aloud from the book of rules, and he must take me for a fool, because all my rules have been broken. You can't imagine my blood as our connection becomes more clear the farther apart we get. I wish you to the far edges so I might smell your sweet desire. I'll drink vodka and avoid direct eye contact with the blockhead. I may have to kill this guy. What pleasure to think of you.
And the people that are in their 80s, most of them write with such accuracy and such vibrancy when they perform. It's not like when you're younger, you really want to become a rock star. You don't tell anybody that. When you're older, you don't have to BS anybody. You're there to express the truth because you may not be there tomorrow.
Hey buddy, the war's over. Over for you, you're dead. You can go home now. It's night. You're snugly wrapped like a sandwich in a bag. Nighty-night. They're waiting for you. The cortege. 6 men will carry you to the next station. Not on Cleopatra's barge, decked out in lilies, but in an anonymous sack with a zipper. Hold it. Is this a fitting end for a fallen warrior? Sometimes it's a roadside bomb. Sometimes it's a roadside bombing that brings the messenger. Sometimes a mortar shell or a sniper. But when he comes, there's no more breathing in sand. The message is always the same. Soldier, you're going home. Death comes by sunlight, a mortar shell in the marketplace. The medics, the ambulance, the stretcher, all in place. But they can't put the pieces together. The game is over. The winner is the loser, and now it's night, and the final journey begins. A line of blue lights for markers, for music, the quiet shuffling of feet, a dirge, dance in sand. There's nothing more to frighten you, no more quick decisions. I hold your grief in the urn that beats in my breast. I treasure your fear and your anger, which now sticks in my spleen. You will be born skyward, above the smoke and the blood. There your angel of metal and rotors, helicopter ready, will lift and sustain you. We all go home someday. You went the hard way.
In order to stay sane, I have to write. And when I was in the Army, I was an infantry rifleman in the World War II. It was scary, some scary shit, you know. So the only way that I could cope with it
was I used to take a manuscript paper with me and write music while I'm knocking around marches. And I would write poetry or write about it, you know, just to cope with it, cope with my life. And I remember one thing was like, for instance, this is much later, when I was in detox, right? You know, so they put everybody in St. Vincent's. They put the people that were flipping out were put together with the people the drugs and alcohol. In other words, we were in the insane asylum at St. Vincent's, and there was some scary stuff. It wasn't just substance abusers, you know, they were people that were talking to themselves. So they put a guy in my room named Leo, and he was tied up, and he would escape, and they'd have like alert, you know, red alert, the Leo's loose, and they'd be chasing him around. And I got scared. I thought, well, what if I'm asleep and Leo decides to strangle me while I'm asleep? So the way I coped with it, I wrote a poem.
Leaving a donation on our PayPal makes sure that this video is free for you to enjoy anytime. Information is in the video, it's also on the page, and it's either on the post.
They said I blazed this for the dolphins and the crack babies, so maybe they won't grow up loused and crazy. This spoken word don't help save me, it don't help save me, so I blazed this for the dolphins and the crack babies, so maybe they won't grow up loused and crazy. This hip-hop and poetry don't help save me, it don't help save me, so I'm trying to escape the ghetto, I'm trying to escape the hood. I seen so many of my people do no good. It affects me every day and puts me in a pissed off mood. I'm not trying to be rude when I see females from 12 to 30 out there selling their bodies for food. And my little homies dropping to school now become the government's tool to get a GED, putting up for some application to work in Mickey D's. They get hired, work for 2 months, then get fired or laid off on like a clock. It's really ticking me out, cause I'm running out of time like seconds on the clock. Now where do I begin or where do I stop? Cause when you grow up in the projects, either they go and label you as a statistic or you become an object, or a product of your environment and everything you grew up in. Now where do I begin? I don't sacrifice my life for this music and this spoken word and this hip hop. You know, from sleeping on the train just to perform an open mic, man. You know, running open mics in the rain, man. You know, going to hustling CDs like mine right here just to pay my rent, man. I'm a true artist, man. I'm on my grind 24/8, 367. Pushing my own CD just to pay my rent, to feed myself. You know, it's real music, man. It's real spoken word, man. This ain't no fake stuff. You're not gonna catch this at the open mic, man. You're gonna catch this on the street, like we are right now on the street, man, in the park, man. You know, where I meet the people at, where the people meet me at, where I'm peace with the people are at peace with me, because they see, you know, artists out here on this grind, and I see them where they are.
You can read what you write, and if I don't call Bellevue and have you locked up, right? If you're threatened to kill or something, you leave this place, okay, and you leave this place knowing that you read your own stuff out loud, and it feels good, and it keeps you writing, and eventually it'll happen.
I'm gonna read this poem, which was in my mind 1 week before something bad happened. It's called Peace Never Comes. Waking up in the wee hours of a daybreak, or rather, never slept at all. Something terribly on my mind. It was an injured dove, white, bloodied at the fence, trying to cross to Gaza land. I also discovered that mother's condition has deteriorated. Fatima stated, her only sister, "I've been through 3 wars. I've never seen anything like it." But continued with her shaking voice, "We must leave things with the will of God to take its course, and that while I'm still staring at the bloodied white dove, breaking its wings at defense of Eretz Point. No wonder Hamas had to blast a 7-mile with Egypt to get more supplies for the Palestinians. Israel with pride stated, "We will enforce the siege with all our might. These are terrorists and deserve to starve."
My name is Fareed Bitar. I'm a Palestinian born in Jerusalem, and I write my poetry for my nation. We are struggling as Palestinians, and nobody is paying much attention to us. And I dedicate usually my poetry to the cause, which is peace. We've had enough wars. I've lost 4 members of my family, and I'm sick and tired of wars. It's from the heart. I want to have something solid for my nation. If I pass, it comes from my heart, and I deliver it. Everything is from my head. I'm an artist too. I do wood carving. Everything I dedicate is for my nation, which is under siege, in Gaza land, in Ramallah land. And I give my nation salute. They endure, and I'm here. My heart is with them all the time. And Palestine is always in my heart. And I just want peace. I think I write a lot from an autobiographical mode, so I do think that the life I've lived is I try to bring into focus and understand through writing poems. I don't always know what I've learned from what I've lived until I've put it down into some sort of poem. So I think that's part of the process. But also the poems instruct the life. The poems teach me how to live a little better, at least emotionally and psychologically. They teach me how to keep a sort of even keel and live a full life.
Klutz. For the socially awkward among us. It's always an inclusive statement there. Klutz. Even the sound seems clumsy, as if the word clogs the little space between tongue and palate, an accident shattering consonant, guttural vowel. Looks funny too, like a jogger with a strange gait, or an animal that might benefit from being run over, which is about how he feels as she turns away, retreats to her side of the bed, and he lies there considering the error, the name that just stumbled out of his mouth, dumbly as the first time he asked out a girl with blue spiked hair, a fragrance of old pillows, and subsequent tongue like an iguana. So he tries adjusting the way he once tried puzzling together a dish, a Japanese import from Hoboken, shard and fingertip and crazy glue. Bad idea. Bad as wearing a white pair of underwear on his head to school. Bad as taking that job as a pig inseminator. It's a real job. Bad as climbing Normanwood Bridge. Bad as Scott Cook backing right off. Bad as reaching. Bad as touching his shoe. Oh heart, oh George, oh jungle. Oh God, fumbling for the light switch. Here is your awful toy, all sense tumbling away from him, as it does from you. What else can he do but reach for her, as if touch could fix a wrong, and coax her, hand and mouth back to bed, a skill, the only one he ever had.
And this first poem that is the opening of the film is called Two Mothers All Alone in a Sandbox. When David was little, David and I went to a park, as we did almost every day, and the mothers of the typically normal functioning children really did not want to spend any time with us. So David and I went into the sandbox by ourselves, and in there we saw another mother with a lovely little boy, also named David. Beautiful little red-haired boy. And as I got closer to this child, I realized that he was without arms. And the mother had taken off his shoes and socks and was pouring sand in a cup and then pouring the sand on his feet. And this is called Two Mothers All Alone in a Sandbox. We sit together, unidentified allies. Two mothers in a sandbox. She with a child missing arms, and me with you. Different in your own way. We understand each other, she and I, but we speak only of inconsequential things, trying to mislead God into believing that we no longer mind. We are cast away alone, away from the chosen, silently becoming children ourselves, listeners of the wind, friends of no one, sitting silently in a circle, sifting sand. Survivors in an undeclared war.
These are 5 poems about my son, David, who is autistic and deaf. You riding on an elephant with me. Uncertain, but accepting of this offer to ride this strange and huge drunken creature. You accept this challenge as you have all others. We were meant to ride together high above the crowd. People look at us. They admire us. They know we are different, but they cannot be like us. Safari hunters proud. On what elephants will you ride? After I am gone.
My poetry is very metaphysical. I identify with the metaphysical poets. A lot of my themes deal with man's search for meaning, for God. You could also say that my poetry deals with sex and religion. That could be a sort of a summarization of the various themes in my poetry. It tends to be abstract, tends to have kind of subconscious, sort of bizarre imagery, and I write mostly in free verse, although I've attempted some limericks, and I've attempted writing poetry in some metric style, but mostly free verse poetry with a kind of existential tone to it, if I can use that word. It's kind of a scary word to use these days. Again, most of my poetry also is mystical, and I describe man's attempt to reach the divine not only within rather strange urban settings, but in country settings, in areas where man can sort of return to nature, in other areas of life where we don't normally think the divine is. And that's one of the things I'm trying to get across in my poetry, is that all the world, the rawness, how should I say, the risque element of life is all just as much a part of the divine. That the divine feeling of God encompasses both the sacred and the profane as well, and in through this interrelationships with people, or in this attempt to try to make sense out of this sort of what seems to be an absurd life in spots, man comes in confrontation, or man grasps the divine in areas where they would not normally expect to have this sort of spiritual experience.
Whisperings. Here's what you can hear, yet not hear. What you can see, yet glimpse in dim reflections. What you can deeply comprehend, yet still be puzzled to the utmost. She is the whisperings behind the sad thoughts, the thoughts that lounge around like the overdue guest resting under the quiet blanket. He is known in the loneliness of the lover, aching for his passionate partner. She is the whisperings in the ashy snow that powders the sleeping fields, the misty whiteness that numbs the gaunt, slender, intimidating trees, the swirling silhouettes that are the arching, menacing watchdogs to infinity's shores. He is the silence that occasionally grasps us, occasionally frightens us, the eternal whisperings, the quietness that is louder than any of the flashing sounds of today.
The paper and you were one, you know? The only thing wrong with the paper, in order to have paper, you have to chop down trees. I think I've gotten over that guilt. But other than that, it's brilliant and it's good for you. And it's good for the world. I'd much rather than teach people to write than shoot guns.
Leaving a donation on our PayPal makes sure that this video is free for you to enjoy anytime. Information is in the video. It's also on the page, and it's either on the post.
We're in the ghetto like slave names and mind games. Mind state tatted in my skin, second only to my veins. What's Armageddon? Young men with plastic, angels at me like I'm satanic. A scene for stained glass, tripping on how fast the pain passed. A little less than sane, up a night and a half, still can't crash, still got the same laugh. Losing game scratch, watch the snakes witchcraft match wits with police captains. I am what's really happening. A handsome soul, they say, blood is cold, meaning they feel you, bruh. What's in my veins is cold. Can't explain this mode I'm in a fight forever, feeling like it's foretold. Was a child when I chose my road. This life ain't shit but new clothes, black power, blue notes, cool folks, and a few throats to cut. I be telling my little brother, you the only one I trust. We're at the New Eurekan Poetry Cafe doing a show called Right From Wrong that's been going on for about 2.5, 3 years. It's a showcase of words by young survivors of the prison industrial complex. Basically, I've been going into Rikers Island, working with youth in there and adults in there for about 4 years. So the poets, rappers, singers, this is something for them to do when they get out. Also working with kids and other programs that work with youth who've been incarcerated. And yeah, so this is kind of like a movement we're trying to build.
Power. Power is tenuous. By definition, fundamentally dynamic, fluid in its edges. It slips and swims like the skin of stingrays across the canvas of sand. Coral becoming witness to the movements of the elite and the violently dispossessed. Power is restless. It can be withheld and it can be stolen. But what the withholding and the stealing of it both indicate is that it can be moved. It can be returned. The Kenyan novelist and intellectual artist in exile, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, has described the motivations behind the imperialist behavior of the capitalist nations, examples being the murder and terrorizing of Coca-Cola union organizers in Guatemala, the imprisoning of anti-colonialist writers and scholars from Kenya to South Africa, the demonization of Hugo Chavez in the national media, the economic embargo on Cuba, and so on and so forth, as done in the name of stability. In the name of stability, we have witnessed and continue to witness the incomprehensibly massive exploitation and starving of the so-called global South. In the name of stability, we have forfeited our sense of connectedness to the rest of the working world, the proletariat, in favor of enjoying delusions of exceptionalism through compulsive practices of consumerism. In the name of stability, we have given the okay to the numbing of our psyche and our outrage. How unarmed citizens of the state can be shot at 41 times, 50 times, killed, and we shrug our shoulders, say he had it coming, say, well, technically he was only hit 4 times. This numbing in the name of stability. Power is always in transit. Because of its nature, elites throughout history have waged different variations of war so as to sustain it. To stabilize a system of horrendous inequity, so as to keep the keys to the cabinet of bread, water, gold, all forms of capital and technology. Power can be divided.
But when it came time for the poetry, the audience was hushed, and that's when we were able to teach. A dance is cool, people clap for that. A song is nice, but when the poetry came, it was time to hush, open your heart, and listen to what we have.
I'll say true story, but then when I get up there, I say this is an actual story. It means it actually happened to me. It's about my little brother asked me one day, like, Jay, when's the last time you cried? Because if I look calm and collective, I don't shed tears. I keep all that emotion inside and I share it with the pen, and that's about it. But he asked me last time I cried, and I broke it down to a friend of mine, a situation we had together. Wondering if peace is done yet, I look out block and friend bubbles for a second. Mind numbing as I stand connected to him for a second, and 16 go off, bang, 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 too many for me, rest to count, and he is floored. Back on the floor, and he looks at me, blood bubbling in mouth, and he stares up and says, Jay, make sure my son and daughter live to see another day. Make sure mom knows how much I love them. Make sure my friends don't retaliate. Make sure you stand there stronger than the man and poet martial artist that you swear you become today, and don't retaliate. I stand there for a second, turn around, and I said, order up. You see, my extra cheese pie is done because little sister, baby girl is hungry at home, and I take it. Call 911, takes him over half an hour to get there. Not only that, the police still pat his body down. Wondering if my mind can calm down for a second, I continue walking, struggling, mumbling within head, wondering why more blood on white tee than was on floor. Blood-stained streets where I can't deal with anymore. Thinking back to 14 when best friend had Lambo and head shot was him as I sat next to him in driver's seat. In an instance, I learned to drive stick shift, but back now to reality. Running, walking, faster, pacing. Mental can't stand to catch up with me, but my mind is. I get home, drop pizza off on table, and mom wonders what happened. She heard too many bangs 3 blocks away from where we live, and little sister wondered why I left with white shirt and came back with brown and red one. I look at her, said something really bad is about to happen. Phone goes off, I grab gun, get in car, and wondering if this is going to be another menace to society mental moment. My mind disbelieves all disillusions, and I carry gun into public hand, and I stand there. I say, let me out. Not again. I won't stand here as cops shoot us down, and I won't shoot another brother down in front of me. Don't really know who's related to me anymore, so I stand not to pop off. Never really let a gun off a human being, but can't stand to do it over the fallen soldiers called friends. I stand there walking back home. This just in at 10. 3 young men found slain in mother's apartment. 1 shot in head, 3 shot in back as tried to run. Come to find out, those were the wrong dudes. Everybody says you can always talk to me, but that's not always true. So the pen and the pad, she's always there for you. If you feel like your friends can't understand what you're going through, the notebook will always understand what you're going through.
So it's a great career path for you young poets out there. You know, not that there's any financial reward in it, but the poetic economy is all that's left to stick it in the eye of the horrific triumph of capitalism, where we're all in it together in some kind of collaborative community.
Leaving a donation on our PayPal makes sure that this video is free for you to enjoy anytime. Information is in the video, it's also on the page, and it's either on the post. you.